YouTube? This is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got your Week 11 waiver wire video. Yes, we are talking Week 11. We are about 4 games away before the fantasy playoffs start, so every game is such an important game every single week, the rest going out. Now, of course, there are 4 teams on a bye, so you do have to consider that. You've got the Patriots, the Falcons, Colts, and Saints. So hopefully this waiver wire video helps you with some players that could be a useful add to your team to get you some success for this week. Now, the first player I'm going to mention is going to be Josh Dobbs going against the Broncos this week. He's available in 47% of most leagues. Dobbs has been on fire, and where he has been the most effective has been really on the ground. Only behind Lamar Jackson is he the second best rushing quarterback as of right now. Dobbs, in his chaos of life, going from the Cardinals to a trade behind bench to starting, he is being an absolute just a menace when it comes to fantasy football. He's QB7 as of currently. In the last 3 games, he's averaging 24.9 points. And now has a matchup against the Broncos and Bears right before his bye week. So again, 47% available. He should be rostered in a lot more leagues. Another quarterback I'm going to mention is Kyler Murray versus the Texans. He's available in 27% of most leagues. Murray is in his first game back, finished just over 18 points in fantasy. He had some rust in his throws, right? He had a wide open Hollywood Brown for a touchdown in the end zone, but that's going to be fixed over time. Give it a few games. Look, you've got to get familiar with the receivers again, how fast they are, what their routes look like. That's going to get fixed. But what I was actually excited about was how explosive he looked on the ground. His knee didn't look like it bothered him at all. I think he even played without a knee brace, which is huge for him coming off the ACL tear. And realistically, he's got a great 3-game stretch. He's got Texans, Rams, and Pittsburgh, and then he's got an even better playoff stretch as well. So again, 27% of you may have a chance of getting him. He should be rostered in your league. Now, as far as running backs go, I've got Devin Singletary. He's available in 50% of most leagues. He's playing against the Cardinals. Singletary had a great game filling in as RB1 this past weekend. Now, in his first true game as RB1 for the Texans, he was going against a really tough Bucs defense. So I don't hold that to him because the Bucs just held Derrick Henry to only 3 points in fantasy. So that was just a tough matchup. He really shined last week. Singletary might have given the Texans a reason to get heavily involved in this offense when Dameon Pierce comes back. And who knows what they end up doing, because Dameon Pierce has been out. So Singletary's definitely gotten the option to really perform really well. He had 150 yards last week on the ground. So I'm curious to see how the Texans play this out, because he's got a great stretch for games next. He's got probably one of the better running back matchups. So if he does get the opportunity to really perform as the RB1, he may be somebody that's going to absolutely help you win some games. Another running back you may want to consider is Chandler versus the Broncos. He's available in 92% of most leagues. Now, this is more of a hunch. Chandler was involved a lot since obviously Akers went down on his Achilles injury that put him on IR. Madison has not played very well. Chandler finished with 10 points this past weekend. He is the clear RB2 behind Alexander Madison, but Madison continues to struggle. He doesn't look very efficient. He has not looked really good. So there's a chance that Chandler could supplant or at least get a lot more touches and opportunities behind Madison that might really make this tough for any Madison owner. Sometimes a little tough for Chandler, but if Chandler does continue to shine and the Vikings do tend to use him, he might be a solid flex play. So this is more for deeper leagues or someone who's got Madison. You may need to handcuff him. Chandler's definitely somebody you may want to consider. Another running back is going to be Antonio Gibson versus the Giants. He's available in 48% of most leagues. Now, Gibson hasn't played consistently well, especially on the ground, but he has been a solid flex play in certain situations. Again, especially for some teams, depending on how you're rostered. His value really has been on the receiving end, and the way the Commanders are playing as of late, they have been forced into a lot of passing situations, which has been beneficial for Antonio Gibson. In the last 2 games, he's had 10 receptions, and he's averaging 14.5 points a game. So again, flex play, definitely something he may want to be on your team. He may be somebody you want to add, especially if you've got Brian Robinson, or if you've got a deep league and he's available. Gibson definitely has some value there, especially in flex play. Now, as far as wide receivers, Noah Brown is definitely the number 1 receiver you should consider grabbing. He's available in 76% of most leagues going against the Cardinals this week. 2 weeks in a row, Noah Brown has looked amazing. A lot of that is contributed to Stroud looking absolutely like an MVP candidate. Stroud has definitely helped Noah Brown and Tank Dell and Nico Collins this season. Now, in the last 2 games, Noah Brown has averaged 7 targets in those games and 25.7 points in fantasy. A lot of it has contributed to Nico Collins being hurt. Nico Collins missed the last game, and the game before that, Nico Collins went down. So if Nico Collins does miss time, Noah Brown becomes a really good, solid wide receiver 2 with wide receiver boom potential. If Nico Collins plays, you may want to hinder the starting position for Noah Brown, maybe as a flex play, depending on how many times the passing offense has to be there for the Texans. But Noah Brown definitely should be rostered in a lot more leagues. Another receiver you may want to consider is going to be Elijah Moore versus the Steelers. He's available in 58% of most leagues. Now, this is something that could be something. Like Elijah Moore has become officially the wide receiver 2 for the Cleveland Browns ever since Peoples-Jones was traded. With Watson coming back at quarterback has helped Elijah Moore. Now, in this last game, Deshaun Watson left with a boot. So there is an ankle concern for him. I think he sprained his ankle. So that's something to monitor. But if Deshaun Watson does end up playing, Elijah Moore's value is definitely increased. He's more of a solid flex play, maybe a wide receiver 2, depending on what type of team you're rostered. And of course, if there's going to be any bye weeks or injuries. But Elijah Moore finally had his first touchdown. He's looked pretty good. And the fact that most attention is obviously with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore should have more opportunities to succeed. So again, somebody may want to consider grabbing. Another receiver is Demario Douglas. He's on his bye week this week. He's available in 64% of most leagues. His bye week is needed for the Patriots because they've got to figure their offense out. But ever since Kendrick Bourne went on to IR, Demario has been a target machine for the Patriots. In the last 3 games, he's seen an average of 7 targets a game, and he's always had the potential to break it loose and become a big play receiver. The quarterback play is what has hindered him, right? Zappy with that crazy last interception. Mac Jones is throwing some dumb interceptions, hasn't looked great as well. So Demario is probably more of a flex play, maybe potential wide receiver 2, depending on the matchup the Patriots may have. Patriots are probably going to be forced to throw a lot, so his value is still there. But again, I'm not looking to say he's going to replace anybody on your team, but he may be someone you may want to consider. The last receiver is going to be Josh Downs. He's going on his bye week as well, which is very, very much needed for him. He's available in 43% of most leagues. In the last 2 games, he's been playing hurt, and that has affected his performance. Prior to the injury, he was averaging 12.4 points. And really, there was a stretch of games he was averaging 16.6 points as well. He became Gardner Minshew's big play receiver, and he looked really good. He continues to be the big play for this Colts offense. And even after this bye, I think he's going to be even bigger. He's got a great 4-game stretch of really bad passing defenses. And the injury, again, because of this bye happened, should sort of gotten back to healthy, right? 75 to 80% healthy. So I think Downs is going to be somebody who might be a solid wide receiver 2 going forward. Now, as far as tight end, Trey McBride. He's the only tight end I'm going to mention this week. He's available in 42% of most leagues right now. He's going against the Texans. He's becoming the tight end 1 of the season with how many targets he's been force-fed since taking over after Zach Ertz went down for the season. McBride is averaging 9 targets a game and 17.2 points a game as well. He should continue to be fed those targets with Kyler Murray back at quarterback. I mean, anybody can be a quarterback right now, and he's being force-fed. He has skyrocketed in dynasty rankings, and right now, again, the way his schedule looks, the way he's being force-fed these targets, he could end up being the number 1 tight end the rest of the season and helping you win your fantasy season. So those are my Week 11 waivers you should consider grabbing. If you guys do have players you have on your rosters that you may want to drop, and you're not sure who, and you want to pick up some of these players, hit us in the comments down below. If you guys are still in the trade window, maybe your team doesn't have a trade deadline or this is the last week, hit us up in the comments down below. We'd love to help you guys out with your trade questions. Of course, don't forget to smash the subscribe button while you're there and the like button as well. Again, follow us on X and Instagram as well. We've got some great content there. And if you guys haven't already, hit that notification bell to make sure your videos are notified when we drop them. Stay tuned for our start and sit videos for Week 11, and I'll check you guys out next time.